Hi, I'm Gianluca Fiorelli, and today I welcome to the search session a good friend of mine. She, because it's a she, started SEO it's almost 9 years ago, but she is so skilled, so good at her work, at scale, very fast, all all the step to what it seems to be a great career. She actually covering two roles. She is founder and CEO of Maro Digital, UK, US, and Australia, as the LinkedIn profile is telling to us. But she also quite recently founded, and she is the director of StudioHawk US. In fact, our guest today is talking with us from Atlanta. Hey, Sophie, how are you doing?
Hey, I am good. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm just came back from an SEO mastermind
Very
in
nice.
Dublin, which was a lot of fun. Then I abandoned all the people that were going to celebrate the Global Search Award.
Look at that. Yeah, we know.
As a judge yourself, you know what kind of events are these so very glamorous, but I couldn't attend it. But for the rest, very fine. So, how things are going in Atlanta?
Things in Atlanta are good. Busy, busy. We're growing really quickly out here. It's a great market to be in. Yeah, just very busy. It's great.
And as I always ask to my SEO colleagues when having starting this conversation, how SEO is treating you lately?
How is SEO treating me lately? It's a whirlwind right now, right? I mean, there is so much going on, so much changing. Everyone is talking all about AI, right? Every conference you go to, every board member on every company in the world is like, what's going on with AI? What's happening? Are we optimizing for it? How can we show up in ChatGPT? All of this kind of stuff. So it has been, like I say, a bit of a whirlwind, but it's an exciting time. There's lots to learn, lots to press, lots to play around with. So yeah, it's just been hectic more than normal, but it's the life of an SEO, right?
Totally, totally. I mean, and it's yes, our life always has been quite moved, quite frenzy, but surely it's become frenzier since when ChatGPT came out and
Mhm.
like a snowball, all the other things. And looking, you were saying all people are talking about AI lately, also us here in the third session. We try not only to talk only about AI, because I think SEO is also a bigger thing. But you recently talked about AI at Ahrefs level. And from the title itself, it was a quite interesting way to attack this topic. So you were talking about the hype of AI. What do you define as hype in this soul talk topic?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think really the main reason why I wanted to do the talk at HRS Evolve around the hype and how to kind of cut through a lot of the noise is because LinkedIn, X, all of these different platforms is such a minefield right now. And especially for, junior, mid-level SEOs, even senior SEOs that are in-house, agency side, a little bit everywhere, they're getting quite overwhelmed. And for me, there's people building these amazing tools. There's people talking that SEO is dead, SEO is not dead. Depends on the day and whose kind of posts you're consuming. The whole point of the talk was basically to be like, AI's here, it's here to stay. Here's a few different ways that you can leverage it to help you in your day-to-day work. That's not this super complex, amazing tool. You're just going to replace all your entire team or yourself with an AI robot or anything like that. It's like real kind of actionable stuff. So yeah, it's just kind of like cutting through some of that overwhelm more than anything and like more of the actionable use cases behind it, as opposed to just, oh my God, everything's so scary, everything's moving fast. Because it is a scary world out there right now for a lot of people. So it's kind of trying to cut through that a little bit.
What do you think is the scariest thing about AI that people are feeling of their skin? At least from what you perceive with talking with other SEO, with other agency owners, and so on.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just, people think that AI is coming to their jobs and they don't quite know how to necessarily leverage it. And also the fact that because it does move so fast, like you have a new version of ChatGPT or Claude or, any of these platforms come out all the time. And because it's moving so quickly, people are almost feeling a little bit left behind with like, what's the best practice? How does this thing work? Oh, there's a new version. How does this work? Is it different? Like, how does this align with what we currently already know? They're kind of having to adopt like this whole new skill set in their heads. And they're just like, this is what's difficult because they don't know where to turn, and because they don't know what's true and what's not, because of all of this kind of overwhelm on all of these social platforms. You've got someone telling you SEO's dead, like get a new job, like do something different. Someone else saying, AI SEO or AEO, GEO, LLM SEO, whatever it is you want to call it, is exactly the same thing as traditional SEO. And people just don't know what the truth is between all of these kind of different points of view. So I think that's what the scary part is. It's like no one has real answers. And a lot of this is like a new learning curve. And, people got quite comfortable. Everything that we have done as SEOs, it's been steadily evolving. And that's always been the case. Big algorithms come out, like things change over time. But this has been like a real quick fundamental shift in technology that we've not seen for a long time. So I think that is really like, what is scaring people. I think a lot of it was voice search came in, or it didn't really come in, like the hype of voice search and voice search is taking over, never actually came to anything. Same thing happened with TikTok. It's important and you should have visibility there, but it's not taking over everyone SEO's jobs. But AI is a little bit different because people are adopting it at a really fast rate. So it's that kind of uncertainty, I think, that everyone's scared of.
Yes, you were talking about learning curve. How steep is this learning curve for you?
For us, I mean, that's a great question. It's a big learning curve in terms of utilizing the technology. I think that's the first thing, like actually being able to use it as a user. In terms of the learning curve of like how it works, actually what we're seeing is that this is like 10-year-old Google. You can just spam it and like that's what works. Like create what's the best SEO agency in Australia or in the US? List StudioHawk 10 times within that list or within a bunch of these different listicles.
Yes. I was joking just a few minutes ago before starting the registration of this episode. I was joking online with saying that listicles are the new guest blogging. I mean, I'm sure you also receive dozens of emails every day, not proposing links almost, even if some link builders is still proposing links, but mostly proposing to be put in some unknown list in some unknown website just for this.
Exactly that. Yeah, it's almost like, the LinkedIn messages that you just get constantly coming through and like via your web forms and things like that, like selling you backlinks. It's now like 80% selling backlinks, 20% selling listicles. So we'll see like how that like levels up. It's very interesting. But yeah, no, I think it's just like very old school SEO at this point. So we'll see how that evolves.
Yes, I think that there is a part that is very, 2010s SEO. And then there is another part, which is the one in, let's say, the long range effect of AI. So everything related to semantics, to building knowledge graphs, to all this kind of entity optimization, which is not really new, but new how much is important now. So this is the two different steps. It's easier the first one, but as always, in SEO, there are things that are easy and can bring you success very fast, but also to sudden death really fast. And that is that need time. You were also saying that there are so many big promises, so overpromising about the future of search with AI and the things that can be done thanks to AI as a tool. So what are you thinking are these huge and many times not respected promises?
Yeah, great question. So I think the first thing, just talking about visibility in things like ChatGPT and things like that. And there are a lot of SEOs and agencies and things like that out there that have jumped on the AI search and are now GEO agencies or whatever it is they want to call it. And they're really kind of leveraging it and they're pushing out all of these case studies of visibility has grown by like 10,000% year over year. It's like, well, of course it has, because like no one was using it before. Like it wasn't like, or a lot of the numbers on a lot of these case studies are incredibly inflated because of adoption rate changes over the last year. So I think that's one thing in terms of like overpromising clients when it comes to, what's actually achievable. I don't think there's a lot of like tracking and things like that out there now. There's more tools coming out so we can actually start getting some of this data, but you have to be a little bit careful with that. And when it comes to actually utilizing the AI stuff, I think a lot of this is more, a lot of SEOs in their day-to-day don't have time to be able to actually build a lot of the workflows that a lot of people are talking about or posting all over LinkedIn. A lot of people don't have necessarily the expertise to use things like NA10. They don't have developer resourcing to help them create and connect the dots between all of the different elements to build out those workflows and like build those different webhooks and things like that. So I think for me, it's just a combination of the overpromising that we're seeing in the industry and everyone jumping on, oh, we're a GEO agency, we're doing all of this stuff now, when a lot of the fundamentals of what people should have been doing in SEO for years, but probably weren't doing in SEO, actually underpins a lot of that. I also think that a lot of the like use cases of utilizing AI can be a little bit overpromised sometimes in terms of like the quality these things can deliver without kind of human checks as well. And just like people just don't have the time to build a lot of this stuff. Like people are doing amazing things with AI and like there's stuff that's being built in their sleep, and like they're not having to necessarily hire for every single role that they might have had to do previously because they're leveraging this technology. And that's awesome. Like efficiency is great. This is what this technology is meant to be here for. But yeah, I think there's definitely like a little bit of spookiness out there going on the Halloween theme, a little spookiness. But for a lot of people, they just don't have the time to build these huge workflows as like employees within their agency that are actually going to do a lot of this work for them. And most of the time, they're not that good either.
Yeah. I think you touch a really good point because, for instance, myself as a consultant, it's relatively easy to have the time to project and build a framework that can be used by clients. Sometimes clients are also agency, but I know that sometimes what I create, I always have to create a sort of light version of it.
Yeah.
So the light version of it is usually the one that can give you good enough results. I mean, really good enough, not just enough to be something. And the other one is whenever you have time, try to do this with a case study to build it in order, because that is what, for instance, recently I'm really into the idea of clustering very well contents in order to earn a stronger and durable topical authority. So I have the two versions of doing this. One is with the support of AI facilitated work of clustering, so which is fine, correct. It can give a big result as I'm seeing. And the other one is the ideal one that maybe only the person that really wants to go faster and want to be sure for the future long term, building knowledge graph, merging knowledge graph, which can be quite expensive, quite slow in the beginning, but then it can be repay you because it's just maintenance and making you work better and faster. So yes, I totally hear you. So talking from your agency point of view, how in StudioHawk, for instance, are you integrating the help of AI for your daily work, for workflows? With usually it's for doing things, so make things faster, but maybe you are also start trying to do something more sophisticated than just doing things faster.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're using it at a whole different kind of levels within the agency. So from everything from, like you say, like doing things a little bit faster, like, for example, creating content briefs for either our content team or for clients. Like if he was to do a lot of that stuff manually, which we would have to do back in the day, it maybe take like a good hour to like do a lot of the research, put in the structure, do all the keyword kind of research within that as well, create the page titles, create the meta descriptions, and at scale, like that really kind of adds up. So obviously, yeah, doing it like via AI briefs and making sure we've got that kind of human oversight within a lot of this stuff as well is all about kind of speeding things up. But on top of that, we're also using it as more of like a understanding our client sentiment level as well. So really just looking at, the emails that our clients are sending through to our SEO specialists, having oversight on some of those in terms of the sentiment of those emails. And if there's any form of, potential neutral or dissatisfaction based on the context of that email, then a senior or a team leader will get notified of that. So then we can jump straight on the problem before it's even a problem. So it's helping us to like put out a lot of fires with clients where we may not have had a lot of that visibility before. So that's been great. And then just like really understanding like a lot of our own marketing workflows as well, and just like building out loads of kind of automations across the board, connecting different systems together and all of that. Just so from like a management perspective, we're able to have so much more visibility, because now StudioHawk's global. We're over 110 people in 4 different offices in 3 different countries around the world in completely different regions and time zones. And while we all operate individually, so the US like runs the US, the UK runs the UK, Australia, Melbourne and Sydney runs the Australia side and the APAC region, but it gives us more of that general kind of overview globally now as well, giving us like, again, just more insight from kind of a board level and a global level to make sure that we kind of know what's going on under the hood, because you can't be completely across the, I don't know, 500, 1,000 clients that we have globally at every touch point. So having some form of automation AI to tell us, are they happy? Are they not? And then being able to jump on these things sooner rather than later. So yeah, it's kind of at every point really that we're really starting to leverage this technology.
And another question, which is sometimes I ask myself, because an agency, as you were saying, you have a lot of clients, but one of the defects, for instance, of creating stuff with AI is that AI tend to standardize the output so that client X and client Epsilon substantially, if you're not controlling the work, are substantially proposing the same thing. That is what you call put the human into the loop. But what about the creativity the human can bring? How much and how do you, let's say, control the output of AI in order to insert the correct creativity for the client?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think this is where, AI will never actually take over completely. It may change what our day-to-days look like, because SEO has always been very much a checklist exercise for a lot of people. It's, is your page title optimized? Check. Is your meta description, does it have a keyword and a call to action? Check. Is the H1 got the main target keyword? Check. And that's really kind of old school SEO that we should have moved away from like a really long time ago. And I think AI is now helping us to do a lot of the checklist stuff easily and faster, so we can focus on some of the bigger picture, creative, strategic stuff where we actually do make a lot more of an impact. Because like you say, AI just pushes out a lot of generic stuff. Even if you really kind of focus on giving like really specific points within the prompts to make sure that it is specific to that client, which is really important. Like garbage prompt gets garbage back out, and same with like anything to do with how they're crawling content, garbage in, garbage out. It's just like how it goes. But making sure that we're leveraging AI to make things faster for us when it comes to some of the day-to-day chores that don't need that element of creativity, but then we're utilizing our human side for empathy with clients, creativity within the strategy, the strategic thinking at a broader scale as well, and like really understanding the core of the business and what their priorities and their objectives are. They're going to be like really where SEO goes. It's going to be more of that creativity and strategic thinking as opposed to just ticking off some checklist items.
Great. And you personally, how do you adopt AI also in your daily life?
In my daily life, I was actually quite a late adopter. I was very like anti-AI for so long.
Really?
Yeah, I was just like, this is another hype. Like, this is going to be another voice search. I was like really late to the voice search game as well, but I love my Alexa now. So, I was quite anti it, but was always kind of testing. In terms of how I use it day to day, like ChatGPT is great. Like, I actually love it as a tool. Like, whenever I'm kind of trying to do some more like informational stuff, like I go straight to ChatGPT. I've got a lot of friends who are doing lots of like their own small business side hustles where they're using ChatGPT and other AI to really kind of like develop business ideas. Or one, for example, is selling prints on Etsy. So she's using it for inspiration. So like a lot of the time it's more, it is that informational and instructional intent. Or sometimes if I'm just like, I know I'm in a bad mood, I'm going to email this particular person in like a really bad way. I'm like, hey, can you just like rewrite this email for me? Like, so I just sound like less of a nasty person. That would be great. So I use it for that. And I also love to kind of play around with the vibe coding stuff. Like that's quite a new thing for me, just making sure that I'm like, testing new things and like playing around with this stuff as it is kind of getting better and better. So yeah, for like just like my day to day, like just trying to speed up anything that I can kind of automate that was traditionally taking me so long, especially because like now I'm doing SEO. I'm also running the business. I'm training the team. Like I'm kind of across everything. I'm 2 different regions at different points, plus all of the other traveling and speaking and things like that I'm doing. So anything that I can automate, like, is essentially like what I'm using it for every part of my life at this point.
Yeah, and I imagine uh, in an agency, this is something that came out when I had a conversation here with Joanna Lord. And she was saying that she was foreseeing in agency the evolution of classic figures to AI plus something in the title. So, for instance, from classic content marketing strategies to AI marketing strategies, something like this. So, how do you see the evolution of a several kind of profession that you also direct in the agency within contribution of AI? Are they going to change so much that we are not going to recognize them, or they are just going to evolve but not forgetting what was before?
I think it's definitely going to be an evolution. I think we're already starting to see definitely changes in job titles, like some of the roles and things like that that are out there already. Things like SEO and GEO director and like stuff like that. There's always like a little add-on, but I do think it's always going to be an add-on. I don't think it's ever going to 100% replace SEO. I think SEO is easy for businesses to understand in terms of like what it is, not necessarily how it works, but like what it is fundamentally. And then the GEO AIS search, whenever it is kind of going to be an additional layer on top of that. That being said, I think when it comes to employing people, making sure they have a hunger for learning this new technology and essentially like as part of their role, that's probably what's going to change because they need to be leveraging this new technology. Because if they're not being as efficient and they're not kind of being able to kind of be ahead, then ultimately they are going to start getting left behind. So I think when it comes to employees generally, making sure that they're utilizing it, leveraging it, and like kind of trying to be ahead of the game with it a lot, that's going to be really important. So agencies, in-house brands, like that's really what they're going to be looking for. So, and we're seeing that with a whole bunch of job descriptions as well. It's like, it's not even like before it was have proficiency in Microsoft Excel and PowerPoint and stuff like that. Now it's going to be utilizing ChatGPT and all of these kind of things. It's just going to be kind of that additional kind of toolkit, like add-on that people are going to need.
And if you want to say that it's coming a client to you and is saying, okay, we are relatively good already in terms of visibility on Google, but we want to improve what the LLMs are,
Mhm.
are saying about us. And so obtain more visibility for a wider number of potential conversation on ChatGPT, for instance, especially thinking to LLM also as an online reputation management tool, being, yes, we were talking about the listicle before, but it's not just that, but also to be presented as a brand to trust, a brand to try, a brand that is authoritative, and so on. So considering the classic SEO strategy, for instance, in online reputation management, the classic SEO strategy would have been create content so to push all the others below the second page.
Mhm.
This is not really possible on LLMs
Yeah.
because everything is going to pop up anyway. So, what kind of, if it was a brainstorming with a team, what will you start with brainstorming?
Great question. So I think with the way this is now going, SEO is finally, which it should have been anyway, but finally being seen as part of the holistic marketing strategy. So rather than SEO being over here as its own channel, it's now being pulled into, like brand, social, like all of these other areas, which is where we should have been before. So where should you start? I think that obviously, like, it depends, standard SEO stuff, but where the site is at the moment, are they already owning their niche? I think that's step one. Like, are they the biggest brand in their niche? If they're not, how can we help increase their brand visibility? And then that's when you start looking at, what are they doing on their socials? Like, have they got any kind of video content? Because now that's starting to show up a lot more. What's their structured data look like? Do like LLMs, which is another argument in its own of like whether or not they can read schema and things like that. I think that I believe they can. I'm not going to have that argument with people. Like I know Mike King said something similar in one of his webinars as well, but yeah, that's a whole different story. But structured data, making sure that the context is there. digital PR is going to be huge. And I think that really kind of took off especially in the UK in like 2020, when we started seeing a lot more agencies popping up with this offering. But I think with the prominence of, brand mentions, brand visibility growth, looking at not just traditional metrics like has our organic traffic increased, but also looking at, are more people searching for our brand directly as well? Because a lot of what SEO does also influences the branded as well as the unbranded. And people kind of forget that quite a lot. And then that will obviously feed into all of the other kind of brand marketing strategies as well. Looking at opportunities on Reddit. Now, you do have to be quite careful with this. It is not being as prominent in things like ChatGPT as it was previously. It is a whole kind of realm of its own. It's very like, you can't just go on there and start like selling. Like, you'll just get absolutely torn apart on Reddit. It doesn't work like that. But seeing if you can have a presence on there or what your presence currently looks like, a bit of reputation management. Because a lot of what we're seeing is like, if you've got like one really bad Trustpilot review, that's the one that seems to get surfaced within LLMs, as opposed to like the 10,000 good ones that you've got. So really kind of managing all of that all together. And then how SEO feeds into that as well is like, making sure that you have the topical coverage, the semantic variations as well, making sure that like everything you're writing about is owning your niche and you're kind of really covering all of those different areas. Because a lot of the time with SEO content strategy, we were just chasing keyword volume. It's essentially the whole point of what we was doing. Whereas now it's much more, what are all of these questions people are asking and could possibly ask about this product, this service, this particular tiny little variation of the product as well, and making sure you have enough content and context around that on the website too. But where should you start? I think is benchmarking. It's like, what are we showing up for? What are we not showing up for? And how can we then do that? And then that will feed into the actual strategy itself in terms of channels. Is it digital PR? Do we need to double down on our brand visibility, brand mentions, get referenced in all of these huge publications? Great. We get some backlinks too. Good SEO too. And then we look at, structured data on the site. We look at what they're doing from a social strategy, their video content, their YouTube, all of this kind of stuff, and how that all integrates into kind of an overarching like marketing channel.
Yeah. And when you were talking about Reddit, I was thinking how much LLMs, but also Google, are substantially inflating Reddit was always a relatively strong social media forums, UGC environments in the US. But now, because of how much of all this deal, the much it is used as a training data, it is making that obliging marketers to use Reddit also in countries where Reddit is not so used. I'm thinking of Spain, where, we had a very famous, we have still, a very famous Reddit style forum, which is called Foro Coches, because it was born as a forum about cars, but then exploded to all the topics. And it's working well because it's cited by Google, it's search results, also from AI overview sometimes, discussion and forum. But yes, Reddit, now everybody's thinking about Reddit. But in this specific case, not only of LLMs, but also the discussion and forum, for instance, sometimes people think that marketers are lazy because there are so many forums, especially if you are in a specific niche, that are popping up and presented. And that maybe are also the occasion easier when trying to seduce Redditors to start creating conversation and relation with true expert about your niche topic. And it can lead to more beneficial effect after. So that was something popping up to my mind because, for instance, sincerely, I never used Reddit until when I was obliged to use it.
Absolutely. I'm exactly the same. I have never used Reddit until it started really like taking off in the SEO world. I was like, oh, I guess I should probably see what this hype's all about. But SEOs were in everything. And I think like we all kind of own that in terms of, FAQ schema. FAQ schema doesn't show up in SERPs anymore because we all used FAQ schema on
It started to pop.
It started
a little bit more to repop now in search results.
Well,
like the classic suggestion that is, even if you ask ChatGPT or Gemini, or what are the things that I have to do to be more visible on LLMs? And it says, use auto schema. You know that auto schema, for instance, is deprecated by Google. So if you also want to have a rich results for the auto schema, it's not going to work. But returning to the schema part, not to ignite again a polemic, but for me is also quite silly. I mean, discussing if LLMs are reading or not reading schema for me is missing the point totally. Even if they don't read it, I mean, schema is very good because it's semantics, along with semantics, HTML, all these kind of things. The browser, the new browser of AI is even using IRA tags for understanding how a page is working. So all this labeling is still good. And in the case of schema, it's really good because it can be used as a draft for what are the things that we could use.
It's just extra content,
So
right?
in doing so, you are substantially, even if Varn is not going to be read as such, you are going to give a structured content to LLMs, to Google, to whatever. So why discussing all these sex of angels?
I know. I feel like honestly, we've all just done like a really bad job. SEO as like a collective. We've all done a really bad job because when all of this stuff started coming out, we were such in a prime position to really own this space and be the dictators of like what this means for brands. And what we did is we spent more time arguing if it's called GEO, LLM SEO, AI SEO, AEO, and whether or not
Well,
LLMs.
I also discovered that
Right.
because I was reading recently, I say, okay, GEO. So I go back to the original paper on Archive, which was written by prestigious academics people. No one of them never tried to rank a website, so respectful or poor theoretical things. In the paper, we talk about SEO as it was, again, 2010. That's why all the LLMs are telling you we are passing from keyword stuffing. I mean, I don't think anybody is doing keyword stuffing anymore. And then I was reading it was quite polemic also when it was published. And there were people that were saying an acronym that I never see used. And actually, it's relatively good, which is AIVO, AI Visibility Optimization, which is actually the good description of what we are doing.
Yeah.
So if you need to find a new acronym, remember there is also AIVO.
IVO. Yeah, no, definitely. But this is what I mean. Like, there's just been so much argument about that rather than positioning, because I guess like, obviously we didn't necessarily know how it all worked and everyone's reverse engineering it. And we're kind of talking about relevance engineering and all this kind of stuff now. But we should have at least been the owners of that space. But then was it the Verve article or something like that came out and about how that then just crossed all of the brands and that's when all of like the hype and the worry came of SEO is going to be dead. But we should have owned that and been like, no, this is an evolution. But we're too busy arguing amongst ourselves about all these different kind of things. So super interesting.
Yes. I think that we spend too much trying to reboot what people says and never trying to own, as you were saying, our terminology, our space. And I think also that even if SEO will never admit it, we too afraid to present ourselves as SEO because of a bad name SEO acquired during the years. So, okay, we were from SEO, back in the day, all SEO became content marketers. And then they became something else. And then now we are pretending saying, I'm a GEO, but like the meme.
Yeah.
You put the mask, it's still an SEO.
Literally.
So talking again, going back to AI, when you think AI should never be used when it comes to working with a client?
When it should never be used? That's a great question. Obviously, anything that's like their personal data, which I see some interesting things happen when it comes to AI. So that's kind of one thing. I think strategically, anything strategy wise, like I just don't see the value in it. I see the value in inspiration from it, but it just gets it wrong so often and it still hallucinates at a really kind of high rate. I think Vivant did a study, and I think off the top of my head, ChatGPT 5 has a hallucination rate of maybe 1.4%, and Gemini 2.5 is 1.1%, or the other way around. Like, don't quote me exactly on that. I don't have the study in front of me. So it's still hallucinating at a really higher percentage. So I think AI should never be used when it comes to real kind of in-depth strategic thinking and anything creative. Like, realistically, like, we're the ones who are thinking outside the box. All AI is doing is leveraging things it's already learned from things that already exist. So if we want to do something different, while we can take inspiration from that, those ideas need to come from ourselves ultimately, because otherwise, chances are it's already kind of been done before. So it's more like going down that route. And I think that's really where the human element of this is going to stay. The client relationship management, that's going to be huge still. Like, AI is great for automating like weekly updates and email sends and stuff like that. But having that one-to-one, understanding the client, having the empathy, if they have a bad day, like actually like dealing with that. And same as like for in-house, obviously I'm talking from like an agency perspective, but I was in-house for 2 years as well. And like that connection between the different teams internally, like if you're, for example, in e-commerce, like connecting with product merchandising teams, connecting with customer service teams, and doing all of that on a personal level can really help you to like leverage your strategy way more than like what AI can necessarily do. It can utilize all of the data that they're giving you and spit all of that back out, but having like more of those in-depth discussions, understanding the customer, understanding all of those kind of things, that's a human level thing, in my opinion. Other people may disagree with me.
Oh,
Sorry.
I totally agree. In fact, I spent quite many of the first call with a client talking about his business, about everything but SEO, AI, visibility, and so on. It's more really trying to understand the business, how it works, how are the people, who are the people, how can I connect to the people, for instance, in customer care, head of production, if it's, for instance, a B2B, or an engineer, to learn the language and so on. And what I like to use then is, when it comes to creativity, use creatively AI, but in especially for lateral thinking, as trying to connect, maybe because I'm Italian, I don't know, we tend to use a lot metaphor, allegories for explaining things. And so sometimes I like to think, okay, let's see these things, A, to something which is totally apparently not connected, and now we can use them together. So AI can be of help in telling you cannot do it, or because it has such a big knowledge to practice of all the things, so like a big encyclopedia, it can, and because it works on language, they can find this connection and then enter with creativity, judge how AI, and you start, okay, it's an interesting idea, let's work it.
Definitely. I think as well from my side, like another reason or another area where I don't like to leverage AI too much is when I'm training juniors. And the reason for that is because I want them to think for themselves. And when they're just literally plugging every question that they can think of into AI rather than actually trying to think this stuff through, like they're just not necessarily expanding their knowledge in the same way that they would have done if they could actually, problem solve. Now, like there's not, it's great that you can just plug stuff into ChatGPT. It saves me a hell of a lot of time. And I'm like, right, I
Oh,
can't
yes.
find this one little comma within my HTML that's like screwing everything up. Find this for me. Like, whereas, I have to sit there manually go through line by line, like 8 years ago, or even like 5 years ago, 3 years ago, even going through all of this stuff. So it's great to have that. But I really just want to make sure my juniors can like think for themselves and then add the AI layer on top. And I think that's kind of like, one of my fundamentals. And, this
Yeah, I
may
like it. Like when in school, people still do math using the calculator, and
for
instead
sure.
of just asking to using, I don't know, Google image and and
Yeah.
lens to resolve the problem.
Yeah, because we're getting lazy and like that's great and it's cool that we have all of this technology, but you still need to have a brain. So like, use it, like it's there. And I think getting them to like, leverage it in certain situations, but not every situation will also help them to better problem solve when they come up against the same situation but in a different way, simply because like every industry and every niche and every website is all going to be completely different. So the way you do something for one client is not necessarily how you're going to do it for the others. Best practices are all great, but they don't always necessarily apply in exactly the same way for every kind of standard in like a standardized way. There are some things that do, but not everything. So making sure that like they can actually like go in, think for themselves, like problem solve that, and then use the AI to like find the final solution, then that's what I'm kind of looking for. So yeah, it's more of just like, actually use your brain.
Yes, yes. Always try to pamper your brain, because if not. And talking about just a quick view about the future. I mean, we know that this present is quite unstable. It's changing every day. But even if it seems so far away, I mean, it was just in December 2024 when Google itself was starting to talk about agentic search. And now it's the new thing inside the AI ecosystem that is really starting to push with the MCP, N88, N8N, etc., etc., etc. You, as an agency, you work a lot also with e-commerce. How do you think businesses with e-commerce are ready for this evolution to agentic search? So to have substantially their website becoming more than a place that is going to be visited by human, as a place which is going to be a big database, a big catalog from where the agent of turn, ChatGPT, Perplexity, maybe in the future also Google, is going to come and talking with API, doing all the things for the user, which is using their platform.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think business are understanding this kind of change? But it seems going to be the future.
I don't think they're prepared at all, if I'm being completely honest. Like a lot of them don't even have good analytics tracking set up. Most of that's junk. And then they don't have things like their merchant center optimization, like, or any kind of merchant center feed set up, or at least even optimized. And organic shopping has been there for God knows how long now. So like, are they ready for agentic checkout? Probably not. They are lucky in some cases in that, Etsy's already integrated with the ChatGPT agentic checkout, and Shopify either is or is coming very soon. I can't quite remember what the dates look like on that. So some of that will already be automated for them. So that will really help. There's still so many legacy issues out there of like, sites being built completely on JavaScript and everything being client-side rendered, not server-side rendered, and all of these kind of basic technical issues. I think as SEOs and like people working in this industry, and even just marketing managers, we are so tunnel vision of just like, AI is the future. AI, like we're basically AI bros ourselves at this point because we are like so tunnel vision on this. But I think I was reading a study of like 66% of Americans have never used an LLM or ChatGPT, and this came out like only in the last couple of months. So I feel like we still all think that like that's what everyone is going to use and what everyone is using right now. That being said, I completely agree. I do think AI mode will be the default Google search. I don't think people will be happy about it, but I do see that coming in the future. I see more of the agentic checkout stuff coming, and that just being, I mean, it is coming, it's been confirmed, but that coming soon. And then that being kind of a core focus. But I don't think the majority of, especially smaller e-com brands, are ready at all, because some of the fundamentals they haven't got right yet either. So this is where, SEO is in a really good spot, and SEO is not dying, because we're in the prime position to be helping these businesses and helping these brands to get ready, but also fix a lot of the fundamental stuff as well. It's going to also help their traditional SEO.
Yes, but I was thinking that you were saying maybe the small businesses are not the one ready. Usually they are not ready. Sometimes they even don't know how to use the same Google business page correctly. But if we are, let's say, SEO in this sense can really help them. For instance, small independent e-commerce, sometimes even local e-commerce, because many times you were saying, many times these are shops that are running on Shopify, running on Etsy. I think it's going to be more problematic in terms of adjusting all the things and then integrating all the agentic operation for the big brands with monolithic e-commerce and stores. Also because they are slow, and so a long chain of decision makers, and because they have sometimes big issues of legacy code. So that's why in this case, maybe a smart small business could do the big jump
Yeah.
in order to pass them all.
dominate. Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with that. And I see it a lot now when we're working with enterprise accounts. Like there is so much bureaucracy and so many like teams that are completely split up and everyone's got to make a decision and have an input on this. And they're all in different regions and everything has to be async. And it's like, guys, we're just trying to add some content to a collection page. Like it's not this deep. Like we do not need like 5-10 people kind of like chiming in here. Like we will be okay. So yeah, like from a technical standpoint as well, like so many of these are on custom CMSs. So many of these are on like old kind of like, or have like loads of legacy technical issues, bloated code and things like that. So many have like other issues as well where they don't necessarily want to be sharing their data with AI. And that's also something I'm seeing quite a lot in more kind of highly regulated industries, like naturally. But if they're not then able to share with any of this stuff and that becomes the default search, that's going to then cause an issue as well. So yeah, like you're totally right. Like it's not just like, small businesses like not being ready. These enterprise companies as well, if they're not already starting to work towards this, they are going to get left behind because ultimately they need to be moving fast. And that's really tough in kind of enterprise level.
Indeed, indeed. So let's stop talking about AI. Let's talk about you. As I was saying in the introduction, you are in this SEO world formally about 10 years, 9 years. And before you spent, your work was mostly journalism. And the last moment of journalism, you were a journalist for a musical magazine. How was the experience to be a journalist? How much of a journalist is still in you?
Oh my God. Yeah. I loved being a journalist. Like it was awesome. I think the only reason I left the field is because it was like, A, like almost too competitive, and B, I moved out of London and there just wasn't that much out after that. So like, that was really hard. No, I loved it. I am hugely passionate about music and like always have been. So for me to like get into that field in the first place was amazing. I was being sent left, right, and center to all of these different like shows and gigs for like all my favorite bands. I was at festivals all the time. Like as an 18-year-old, like that was like phenomenal. That was like living my best life, super young. So I loved it. But how much of a journalist there is still in me? Like I still love the content creation side. I am definitely not so interested in the political stuff that I was doing at one point as well. Not really bothered by any of that anymore. Like, that's a whole different, like, let's not even get there, but that's like a whole different story. So yeah, like for me, it's just like, I love the content stuff still. If there's any opportunity for me to like jump into any form of content, or if a client like sends that content edits and stuff like that, sometimes I'll just be like, just gonna make a few changes, like get in there. Shouldn't be doing this, but it's great fun. But yeah, like journalism is such a cool opportunity. And there's quite a few ex-journos in the SEO field that I found out because we all kind of ended up moving into it because I was doing multimedia and magazine. So a bit of online as well. And then we discovered a bit of SEO and then we kind of all just kind of pivoted straight into the SEO world. So yeah, it's super.
So now, like me, a few years before, when moving from just having, we had our website and we were working in television. Multimedia was harder because the internet connection were still quite slow. But yes, we started to understand that there was something called SEO. So that's why when I moved to SEO too, not having the opportunity to stay still in the television world. And a curiosity, why StudioHawk choose Atlanta as place where to stay?
That's a question we get all the time, actually.
Yeah, yes, I imagine, but
no, we love Atlanta. So typical story, you've got a Brit and an Aussie flying around going, where do we put our office? Right, we know we want to go to America. Cool, the only places we know, New York and LA. Go to New York. Lots of agencies expanded out to New York. It's a huge hub for everything, but it's really expensive. Like we realized when we started totting up a lot of the numbers, like you'd kind of hit a ceiling quite fast, and expansion gets really difficult when those kind of cost of living, office, staff, talent, like all this stuff, it is really expensive. So then we obviously looked at LA as well. And where I'm coming from, the UK, like that's quite a journey and all of like the time zone differences. It also wasn't quite a culture fit for who StudioHawk are and who we like to hire, which is we call wholesome nerds. And that isn't really the LA vibe. So we were then like, okay, cool. Like we don't really know where to go from here. Maybe this isn't going to work. And then a friend of Harry's talked about Charlotte and was like, why don't you come down to Charlotte? Check this out. Charlotte was a little bit too small and we were like, okay, like still isn't quite right. And then someone said, what about Atlanta? Now, everything we'd ever heard about Atlanta wasn't particularly positive because of like all of its history and things like that. And we were like, don't know about that. And we turned up and we were looking around and we were like, wow, like this actually is perfect. It's got amazing kind of transportation hubs. Like it's got the busiest airport in the
Yeah, yeah,
world,
yeah. So that's why I was
which is
thinking.
amazing. Amazing colleges and universities. You've got Georgia State, Georgia Tech. So it's awesome for like junior recruitment. Cost of living is lower. So we were able to kind of get set up and not hit the ceiling as fast as what we would have done in like New York or LA. The weather's lovely, which is obviously a big thing. I haven't come from England. It's rainy and miserable and dark and cold all the time, other than maybe like 1 month of the year. So we were like, get some sunshine. We're right near Florida. Like awesome, amazing. Really cool kind of cities and kind of connections around here as well. So we've got like Nashville close by, Charlotte close by, like Florida's obviously super close as well. So that was amazing to like have all of these extra connections. And yeah, like we started talking to people here. Everyone's super friendly, super nice. And we've got access to a lot of the country that if you're based kind of in New York, you kind of
Hmm.
stay in New York and kind of Philly, New Jersey, like that's kind of your client hub. Because Atlanta's up and coming as well, I think it's projected to grow 40% in the next 10 years. It's kind of a huge tech hub, lots of companies leaving Silicon Valley. We're able to now kind of expand throughout the rest of the
Mm.
US. So it's super interesting.
And in fact, is now that I remember, I still love to watch a lot of movies, a lot of series, not just because of my past working in that sector, but if you have the patience to go all the credits down, Georgia is always there. A lot of things are shot in Georgia.
Yes.
So
So
usually when a country, in this case a state, is a place where all the movie and series industry, entertainment industry is going.
yeah,
For instance, said it was with Vancouver 15 years ago, 20 years ago, or right now even Spain or Ireland. Usually it's a meaning that not only is a great place where you can find so many different locations where to shoot, but it's also because it is a growing industry to support.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
that is also something that usually is an indicator of a relatively good wellness. And so, yes, interesting. I was thinking of Atlanta because it's substantially super. I knew that it is the major hub in the States. So substantially, if it's in the States, substantially also in the world. From Atlanta, you can go everywhere because
Everywhere.
it's in
Exactly.
the middle and have a milder weather than Chicago. Chicago in the winter must be horrible.
Yeah.
So
No,
okay,
absolutely. So yeah, no, it's great. And we're set up now, the team's growing and yeah, we're like I say, very busy.
I'm really happy because I remember I know you for so many years now, and it is a real pleasure to see you personally and professionally growing and bringing up your skills also to this new country. Let's reconquer the state for the British.
We're coming back, guys.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you very much for being our guest today. And I
Yes,
hope to see you soon in real life and maybe soon, let's say in the future again, to
definitely.
in research session to see what happened during this month.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great fun.
And thank you to all of you for being here, watching us, and especially listening to the great things Sophie has shared with us. And the classic YouTuber thing. Remember to ring on the bell and to subscribe to the channel so you are not going to lose any other new episode. Bye bye.